Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are perfectly on time today. So with that, I'd like to introduce Lita Sakutu, who will be our host for the day, as well as Rachel and Tassilo, and we can begin the session.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle. So welcome everybody to the Itonics masterclass for 2021. I'm Lita Sokutu, I'm one of the analysts at Itonics in the Cape Town office. And we're excited to host you for the next 5 weeks to dig deeper into how we at Itonics facilitate innovation management. Just a couple of things that we wanted to say at the top is, in considering these masterclasses, you can think of them as a companion piece to our Where to Play 2021 Plus report, wherein we analyzed 175 plus trends and technologies, and we peeled back the curtain into our environmental scanning process. And so if you haven't accessed the report, please make sure to check the link that we will send in the mailers that we're going to send after these sessions, and please peruse the report. It'll add a much needed texture and deepen your understanding of the content that we shall cover in the next couple of weeks. And so what we want to do now is just share a slide and start a conversation just before we dig into the agreements as well as the housekeeping. So I'll just wait until my technical team has shared our slide, and then I'll get started. So as you can see there, this is sort of what's ahead of us in the masterclass. We start off today with talking about environmental scanning, and the next week is pictures of the future, planning and goals, commitment, and then finally dissemination. And so we look forward to really hosting you folks and getting you to see exactly how we do innovation, as well as what the Itonics approach is, with a little help from some external experts and some people who have done this with industry experience. But to start off the conversation, what we want to do is we want to start and just check in with you as the participants. And we have people from multiple industries here all over the world who have their own innovation practices and have their own strategic and foresight methodologies. But we want to just ask a very simple question. We want you folks to just give one word, just one word, about what you hope to get from today's session. Just one word. It could be something along the lines of inspiration. It could be along the lines of insight. But what we're hoping to do is get a sense of what are you hoping to get out of today's session. And if you can maybe change the slide and reflect that, and we can give some time for you to input that in the chat. Also, we're not too dogmatic here. If a word turns into a phrase, we're absolutely fine with that. We're just very curious to find out what people are thinking here. So we're getting a lot of different insights here, which is quite interesting. Some people are looking for confidence, some people are looking for knowledge, others are looking for food for thought, others looking for refreshment. Best practice obviously would come through, emerging technologies, methods, how to assess the future, applied process for technology search. Okay, this is great. This is fantastic. It's good to know that at least the things that you're looking for will be covered, not just in this session, but throughout the 5 weeks. And that idea of food for thought, or how to finesse your methodology when it comes to innovation, is something that we at Itonics take very seriously. And so we hope that you stay with us throughout these 5 sessions and you can get a little bit more insight into that. I'd like to move us on to the agreements and housekeeping. And the first thing that I want to sort of make clear is these 5 sessions are standalone. They are indeed standalone, but each section is almost iterative in the sense that getting a full understanding of how we think about innovation management and how we think of this idea of empowering everybody to innovate will participate from environmental scanning all the way up to dissemination. And so we ask that as far as possible. We know that people's schedules may come in the way, but stay with us for the 5 sessions, and we think that you will really learn a lot, and there'll be a lot of useful information that you can gain from these sessions. Also, we don't want these to be one-directional webinars where we speak at you around our process. So we really want to engage the chat. If you have something that you want to say, put it in the chat, and myself and my team of technical assistants will help and bring those to the fore and maybe bring these in the panel discussion as it follows. Also, questions are very key. We have a panel of experts here who have thought deeply about their process around innovation. So please, if you have any questions, input them in the Q&A specifically, and then we'll also scour those to see the best questions and ask them at various pit stops throughout our conversation. So please comment in the chat, and then questions in the Q&A would really help us. Another key point that I want to mention is that it doesn't end here in terms of insights. After each session, we will be in touch with you with a formalized mailer to give you access to today's recording, as well as answering the questions that you've sort of asked within the section that weren't able to be answered, coupled with additional resources such as the slide deck that we shall provide and that we're showing right now. So think of this session as, you know, the live session, but then afterwards you can mull over the insights that were brought to the fore and then have those resources to keep and maybe share with some colleagues at your workspace. And so I'll move on from that and say that we've got a couple of aims and objectives that we want to cover here. So basically, our methodology at Itonics is empowering everybody to innovate. And in doing so, we want to share best practices and talk about the capabilities that underpin sort of a productive innovation management framework. And so what our process is here is COFIM, Control Objectives for Innovation Management. And we want to speak about how we use that underpinning methodology to explore the why, what, and how of each capability and how we sort of execute our innovation framework. And so a key question that we're going to be asking today is, how can organizations utilize environmental scanning activities to develop better strategy and foresight capabilities, such as to identify new opportunities and inform their strategic priorities? And so that's kind of like the main thesis statement or question that we're going to be asking today. And hopefully by the end of the session, you'll think critically around environmental scanning and why it's such a key starting point for an efficient innovation strategy. You'll get to understand trend and tech scouting as part of the environmental scanning process. And you'll be able to think critically around the key factors and what those are that hold the most strategic relevance for your organization. And so that's kind of what we're hoping to get today, and really hope to have a very rigorous as well as fruitful discussion with our panel of experts. And in that, it would be great to just introduce them. We have two panelists today. One is our very own Tassilo Heineke, who's our senior innovation consultant at Itonics, and I think he can do a better job of speaking about what he does more than I. So I'll hand over to him, and Tassilo, maybe you can chat to us a little bit about who you are and what you do at Itonics. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Lita, for the kind introduction and also for the invitation to the session. I'm really happy to be part of the session today and talk about my experiences when it comes to environmental scanning. As you mentioned, my name is Tassilo Heineke. I'm Senior Innovation Consultant at Itonics, and within that role, I take care of enhancing organizations' innovation management capabilities, so to be better prepared for the future and already think about competitive advantages for the future. And I do so based on a background in innovation management. I did my PhD in innovation management, also worked for a large automotive company in Germany in the innovation management department, and now working with dozens of different companies of varying sizes and for various industries. That's on the one hand side really insightful, and on the other hand also very exciting to steer towards the future those companies and also make sure that they will be relevant in the future and also successful in the future. So very much looking forward to this discussion this afternoon. Thanks, Lita.
Dankeschön, mein Herr. I will move on to Rachel Ramsey, and Rachel Ramsey is one of the innovation managers at, the innovation manager at Smollen. And Rachel, I'll pass the baton on to you for you to introduce yourself. Nice to have you here.
And just giving you an overview around Rachel's background, she's got a number of years of experience in terms of innovation consulting. She's moved recently over to Smollen, which is a retail distribution company, specifically looking at the B2B distribution side of things. And Rachel and her team have really done an exceptional job of bringing in environmental scanning insights into the organization and centering the strategy development around their findings. And so she is going to be sharing some of her profound insights with us today as soon as she's back online with her Zoom. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I really appreciate that. So we'll see Rachel in a little bit. And so I will start with Tassilo. And I think I just want to remind the audience, if anything comes up, please input it in the chat. Please ask a question in the Q&A section. because I think we have people that have really, really, really great experience within environmental scanning, and we could all learn a lot from them. So please input any questions or comments in the relevant portals. So Tassilo, I'll start with you, sir. Control objectives for innovation management, COFIM. This is the Itonics framework for innovation. Could you just chat to us how this came about, and perhaps maybe unpack what was the need exactly for you to create this sort of foresight and strategy toolkit?
Sure, Lida. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to answer this question. So what is it all about COFIM, so the Control Objectives for Innovation Management? One of our standards at Itonics is the belief that it's better to have a systematic innovation management approach than running in chaotic circumstances. And for building and thinking about a successful future, there needs to be some capabilities present at an organization to really think about innovation management from one end to another. And while we have been working with clients, we have built in expertise on what are the necessary capabilities that organization needs to be successful and also think about innovation. And this is what was then brought into this COFIM framework that we can see here on this picture. And the COFIM framework at the end tries to help answering 3 essential questions. And the first one is where to play. So thinking about what should be the opportunities of the future. Secondly, how to win. So how to engage with those opportunities derived by, for instance, the environmental scanning part. And the third question is then how to execute. So really driving operations forward. And to really build the best conditions for answering those questions, we have came up with those 25 capabilities here in this slide. And I think today we will talk specifically about the very first capability mentioned here in the foresight and strategy part, and that's the environmental scanning part. So thinking about what is happening surrounding a company and what should the company be prepared for the future, and how to leverage this knowledge to build own opportunities that keep the company successful or make it even more successful than today. So that's a bit about the background of how COFIM came up.
Superb. So, I mean, it's theoretically robust, as we can see, but I'm curious, how exactly do you go about aligning COFIM with clients as part of the conventional innovation funnel? How does that work?
Yeah, thanks again for this question, Leader. And that's also a very important question, because normally when we show the slide and the different capabilities, everyone gets really excited about having this structure and framework and seeing all the capabilities that are needed. But of course, we can't do anything at once, and therefore we need to go step by step. And what you can see here on this picture is exactly what I have said before, coming to answering those central questions here. And aligning this with COFIM means to build in a foresight part, so on the left-hand side of this pictures, the best conditions to answer where to play. And of course, it's most of us like thinking about linear terms and having linear processes, because it's easy to understand what's this all about. But I'm pretty sure that all of us know that it's not that easy, that there just needs to be a process and then we can run through it. But there needs to be more conditions that help to bring this process alive. And that's exactly how COFIM fits to this picture here. And for instance, for the foresight part, it is then, as said, about environmental scanning activities. It is about planning and structuring activities, driving commitment, creating commitment, and also communicating what needs to be done to win the future, so to say. And this is how COFIM aligns with this process model and also undermines this process model with the necessary capabilities that need to be present, and that we are working on step by step with our clients to really make sure that they are in the best positions to have a sound process and framework in place.
So if you've given us kind of like a big picture understanding of COFIM, if we maybe narrow down specifically to that first point of environmental scanning, what are the basics of environmental scanning? And then how does it fit into a larger strategic planning process?
Yeah, I mean, it's also about talking about the benefits of environmental scanning. And you mentioned this in your very early statement, that somehow the objective for today's meeting is also to unpack why environmental scanning is such an important task within innovation management. And also thinking about innovation management regularly includes talking about ideas and rather leaving aside the environmental scanning part. But the environmental scanning part can be really powerful because this can set the pictures for what ideas to collect for. So you can align your strategic objectives with the ideas you want to gather and bring this across. And so with that, enabling or establishing environmental scanning, it is of course that you will not be surprised by environmental developments happening in your surroundings, because what you do is building a 360-degree early warning system. So a holistic view on your business environment, what might happen in a societal sphere, what might happen with terms to technological developments. And by that, you are better equipped to counteract risks and find new business opportunities. And if you do so on a continuous basis, you will also be able to collect varying information based upon you will make your decision. And this helps you then also to have a more profound decision base, because you know what technology A can do and compared to what technology B can do. And of course, by collecting varying amounts of information, you will also see new thoughts. You can dive into new ideas that might come from a competitor or a startup or something somewhere else. And so you will find new ideas on that you can, for instance, exploit your opportunities. And with that, as mentioned at the beginning, this is the strategy processor. So you will align your strategic objectives and the topics that are of interest for the future with the ideas you want to collect and for what you want to bring new innovations, hopefully rewarding innovations to the market. And that's also how the strategy piece connects with the implementation piece, what was part of the core of your question.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tassilo. Really, really thorough overview here of CoFIM, as well as how its practical use is. So I have a question for you. I think it's Tassilo showed us what we do at Itonics and how we use CoFIM and how we align with the clients. But you're from a different company, you're from a different space, but you're also doing innovation. And so I'm curious, what gave rise to the innovation department at Smollen? And how did you and your team go about building the capacity to actually have an efficient innovation department at Smollen?
Thanks, Lita, and hi to everyone. Apologies about the difficulties earlier. So that we understand the importance of sustainability in a broad sense. The retail environment that we operate in has always been in motion. It has evolved over time. But what we're really seeing lately is that the speed of this change has increased significantly. And we believe this has amplified the need to innovate. And we do believe that innovation is a critical component of long-term sustainability. So at Smollen, we innovate by growing the mindsets of curiosity, empathy, experimentation, and collaboration across Smollen. We facilitate both the discovery of insights, ideas, and opportunities, and the development of those promising ideas into new solutions. And so what you'll see on the screen there that we've shared is our innovation framework, summarized in a simple equation. And what it shows is who innovates at Smollen. Firstly, we believe that's all people. It's not just a department or a team, but it's everyone. Where do we innovate? We innovate in different digital and physical places or environments in which people can come together to collaborate and experiment. And that's what those places are the places that we, and spaces, environments that we as an innovation team need to build. Then thirdly, how do we innovate? We innovate by following a structured process, that innovation funnel that Tassilo shared earlier. Again, not just a linear process, very iterative and experimental. And then what do we innovate? So you'll see that potential sitting there. We develop potential ideas, information, and insights into solutions that ultimately deliver growth for both us as Smollen as a company, but also for our clients and customers. And that's really why we are innovating.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm curious, for those that aren't necessarily familiar, I believe Smollen was historically like a retail merchandising company and then grew into the e-commerce space globally as well. Can you tell us how environmental scanning informed that process and how you built out a strategy of innovation with an organization that clearly is growing and is having more of an international focus?
Definitely. So the potential is the information that we're moving through the innovation process. And through our process, the information is transformed into new solutions. But before we start building those new solutions, we really want to ensure that we're building the right solutions, that we're developing the right information and opportunities. And to do this, we're tracking change. And we track change in two ways at Smollen. So first, we look internally to our in-house retail expertise and insights, but then we also undertake external environmental scanning. So we work to spot signifiers of change that will affect our future, just the future in general. And then we unpack the signals and changes that we see and repackage them into trends. Annually, we curate a collection of roughly 50 trends that are impacting the commerce value chain. And then from this collection, the trends that are most strategically relevant to Smollen inform the innovation department solution roadmap. And that's really how we build out on our strategy.
Okay, superb. I think, folks, for all the participants that are here, I'm very curious what your comments and questions might be to Tassilo and Rachel. And so just a soft reminder, if you have anything that you want to ask or any comment you'd like to make, please be sure to do so. We want this forum to be conversational. But in coming back to you, Rachel, in a conversation that we had before today's masterclass, you had spoken about the philosophy around input directly impacting output. Can you expand on that statement and give us a view on how you sort of filter down information that is relevant to your innovation objectives?
Definitely. So an innovation agency that I admire called What If said, there is a very simple law in operation, the first law of creativity. The quality and uniqueness of stimulus in has a direct input on the quality and uniqueness of ideas out. Which I think, again, just highlights the importance and benefits of high quality environmental scanning. And so as an innovation department, we have to share top quality and unique potential, that information, with the people at Smollen. So every year, we facilitate a trend workshop with a diverse senior leadership team. About 20 executives from across different functions, business units, and geographies join us to discover the changes impacting the world today. And together we explore the new opportunities that are shaping the world of tomorrow. So from our collection of trends, this team of senior executives are tasked with selecting 20 to 30 trends that they believe hold the most exciting innovation potential for Smollen. And then collaboratively, we rate the trends on both their projected potential to drive sustainable long-term growth, and also, very importantly, their strategic relevance to us as Smollen and as a company. And then the ratings will then guide which trends we prioritize and respond to in the year ahead.
Okay, superb. I'm just going to jump onto a question here. It's from Veronica, and she's asking Rachel, how is the process or the transformation from a development into future growth? And I think what she's trying to get across there is, how can you measure future growth before you take that idea to the market? Is there any sort of thought process in that sense?
So I suppose future growth, it is a bit of a guess. But what we do rate our trends on is both current market adoption. So we do look at the activity that is currently in market and get an understanding of what traction there is. We look to early adopters, but then also we look to a projection of potential financial revenue. And so understanding both the scale of the market adoption, the scale of the industry impact, and that way we're able to get a guideline or an understanding of how wide or how far reaching the impact of the trend will be.
Okay, great answer. Tassilo, I'm just going to take a question here and maybe move it in your direction. And it's from Maria, who asks, how do you assess the strategic fit of a certain trend? Is there any thought process or anything coming to mind when you think about assessing the strategic fit of a certain?
Yeah, that's a common question that we hear. And what makes this question relevant is that, of course, you need to somehow make a connection between a trend and the impact on your own business and your own strategy. And what we normally do in the first exercise is thinking about, okay, what are the strategic goals? And relatedly, what are the strategic topics that are relevant? And by that, you could also identify what we call search fields or key strategic fields. On that you do research. And then for assessing the strategic fit of a certain trend, you can then go by those goals that we have identified and see how relevant is this trend compared to your strategic goals or the strategic topics that you have defined. And that's how you can come closer to assessing whether it's fitting into the current strategy, is it extending the current strategy, or is it not relevant at all?
Okay, great. And then I think I'll ask another question here to both of you. Whoever wants to take it on can take it on. Is what period of time, this comes from Jan, what period of time do you typically choose if you look for change? And in brackets, he said more or less than 36 months. It's interesting. This might also sit onto the idea of road mapping, Tassilo, I'm not sure. But in terms of timeline and planning, I'm curious what your thoughts are there. And Rachel, I'll come to you for comment if you have one.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. If it's okay, I would like to start with this question because I also spotted this question in the chat, and I think that's a pretty interesting question. And I would say it is not, or the way to approach this question is a bit different. So it's not about setting a set time frame and then only thinking about, okay, whether this trend technology will have an impact within the 36 months or not. It's rather the other way around. You spot trends, technologies, companies maybe, and then think about when will they reach their maximum impact. And with that, you can then build ranges saying, okay, they will have a peak in 2 years, they will have a peak in 3 to 5 years, or even in 10 plus years. And so you are better prepared for a long-term future by just flipping a bit the question. And so coming from trend sides and then thinking about when will the maximum impact be reached. And upon that, you can then also make your decisions and say, okay, this might be relevant for next year's roadmap, and this might be relevant for our rather long-term 5-year roadmap. And so you can bring together different trends without limiting to a specific time frame here.
Okay, I hear you. Rachel, anything to add there?
I really like the way in which Tassilo has framed that. And I think as well as an innovation department, we've been given the scope to look across all 3 horizons. And so we are looking to the impact that a trend will have in our first horizon, in the second horizon, and in the third as it grows to develop. And like I spoke about it being an annual process, I think in that way, we're continuously tracking the trends to understand how they are developing. Are they developing as expected? And then how that will impact future development as well.
But if we're thinking about strategic foresight and scenarios, that might be a different question, just to add this here. So because with scenarios, you rather go with a certain time frame saying, okay, what will be the scenario in 2030? And then you have a fixed time frame, but that's a different approach. I'm not sure whether the question was coming from this direction, just to mention this here. Sorry for interrupting, Dieter.
Not a problem at all. Folks, we see the questions and we're quite cognizant of time. And so what I want to guarantee is that all of your questions will be answered in a mailer in detail with the insights that Rachel and Tassilo have. So we're going to have to move on to another section, but please bear that in mind that we will get to all your questions and they will all be answered. So thank you so much for the participation. But I want to sort of shift tact a little bit and maybe move on and speak a little bit around rating and relevance when it comes to trends. And so Tassilo, I'll start with you, then I'll move on to you, Rachel. Why is rating and relevance considered such a fundamental component of environmental scanning?
I like that question a lot, Lita, because at the end, this really goes to the fundamentals of environmental scanning. So why are we doing environmental scanning? As said, of course, not being surprised, but how we do it then, we are looking for things that will impact the future. And we're thinking about the future, there's a great level of uncertainty. And so we can't be really sure of how the trend or technology will really develop. And to get to a better understanding, we then need, let's call it the collective intelligence of multiple peoples to assess things that are hard to assess on its own. And that is where the ratings come into play. By asking different kinds of experts or decision makers there about what they think about a certain trend, and then aggregating those single ratings into a common picture, this, at the one hand, creates your own view and creates alignment on what you think of the impact of this trend. And on the other hand, it also puts you in a good position to argue why you do initiatives thinking about opportunities for this trend, but not the other one, because you have come to a common sense with regards to this trend or technology and can then more easily justify your future activities and why it's good to go in this or another direction. And therefore, ratings are important with this regard.
Okay, Sure, that's great. And I think what you just said now will dovetail quite nicely with a little overview of the product. But before that, I want to move on to you, Rachel, and just ask this idea of, gaining insight of what you already know and gaining insight of what you don't know yet, and like as part of the environmental scanning process. How do you ensure that Smolin is sure to gain insight, but also track trends that are outside of their category and outside of where we necessarily associate trends as being associated with an e-commerce global solutions provider?
Great question. So I really love this quote from futurist Anne Kajia, and she said there's a space between the known world and its hard data sets that we must become familiar with and comfortable inhabiting if we want to plot the future with confidence. And Silo spoke to that just now in speaking about uncertainty, and there is a lot of uncertainty as we look forward. So what the innovation department at Smolin does is we look beyond historical FMCG category or channel data. We take a step back, we broaden our perspective. We look to the environmental, social, political, legal, economic, and technological changes that are impacting the full commerce value chain from end to end. So that pestle analysis. And then to do this, we track changing consumer needs. We analyze industry data. We observe media for businesses and cultural developments across various regions and industries. And we look to startups as well as academia and future studies too. So it's really that broad research and our trends that enable us to plot the future with that much more confidence.
And competitors, where do they fit into that process?
So at Smolin, our competitor process has traditionally been undertaken by the marketing team. And as an organization, we have generally used that information to inform more immediate business planning. And then the business planning projects would populate the 6 to 12 month timeline, our strategic themes, direct 5-year projects, while we as an innovation department are generally more focused on the third horizon opportunities, looking to kind of a further beyond 5 years type of timeline. So given today's conversation and Itonics' approach to environmental scanning, which includes that competitor analysis, I'm really excited to explore the possibility of better incorporating competitor intelligence into and as part of our trend curation moving forward.
Okay, superb. Thank you so much, Rachel. So Tassila, I want to just move to you. I mean, understanding trends, rating trends, seeing their growth, seeing how exactly competitors are operating within the marketplace. Maybe we could move to you and have maybe a bit of like a product application and figure out where exactly the Itonics product fits into this entire conversation around environmental scanning in general, but also trend and tech rating in particular. So could you assist us with that?
Yes, sure, leader. And I think this, what I will show now pretty well fits into what Rachel just has described and what we have discussed so far, and puts it into a visible form, easy to see forms. What I'm showing you here is the idea of the 360-degree view, the idea of keeping or getting a holistic view on market developments. And exactly what Rachel has mentioned here, the idea is to divide this whole environment that the business is affecting into different categories, like with the steep or pestle framework here, and thinking about, okay, our business environment, how can this be driven forward by the society and individuals? What's the matter of the economy and business? So for instance, competitor activities in a certain direction. What's the influence of ecological topics to the environment? What about politics and law? And of course, also around technologies. We do not see it here because we have a separate grader for this in this example here. But this is really how you get this holistic view, the 360-degree view. And with that, you are best equipped to have this holistic picture of your environment and think about the main drivers that will put you forward here. And just while Rachel was talking, I put a different view on the radar and what you, Lita, and team has worked on with the trends here to be more specific around e-commerce and with the ideas of ratings. And you can now already see that we have some dots here that are closer to the centers and others that are farther away, some dots that have a different color. And this is how you really get an understanding of the impact of each driver or trend technology in comparison to other drivers. And so if you now need to think about, okay, what should we do? Where are our opportunities? This now makes it easier to spot the trends that seem to have really impact here. And then think about, okay, what could be the opportunity for Smollen, for instance, or any other company here? And just by hovering over the elements here, you see the different elements that are here within the system. And by clicking on an element, you will get a detailed description of what is really behind this element. And with that, it also helps to spread the word around different trends within the company, also helping to motivate others to contribute and thinking about what's lying behind those trends. And of course, we have many more things here. And what we can see also in the radar itself is that it's reflecting relationships between this one element and other elements here. And so it's easier to see, okay, what will change if we do something with regards to this one trend? How might this also affect other trends? And so it makes it easier to keep this systematic and holistic view. And within the system, we also have more fine-grained signals attached to each element. And this is how you can find further inspirations around each trend. So showing you latest news publications that are available and that have just recently occurred. And this might help you to find new thoughts, get new or think about new opportunities, and also create evidence around why this trend is relevant, because there seems to be a certain level of activity when it comes to news. And this is in a nutshell just what we have discussed here, and why it's also relevant to think about environmental scanning and how to bring this into action here.
Thank you so much for that. You took such a very complex product and really summarized it quite well for us. I'm looking at the time and I'm a little bit sad that we can't get to all of the questions that we had planned. I saw Bjorn, I saw Esther, and I saw Jan had questions. And so what I sort of want to do now is, Tassilo, you can stop sharing your screen and maybe get you to just give some final points and thoughts around environmental scanning, why you think it's important, and then I'll pass on to Rachel to speak about why she thinks it's important within the innovation process at Smollen, and then I'll close off.
I saw that one of the questions was around the size of the innovation department at Smollen. And so we have a global workforce of over 70,000 people, but an innovation department of 2. And that is where tools like this become so important, because I've already spoken about the importance of quality and unique information, but it doesn't help if it sits with us as a department of 2. And so really, when we are calling on our people across our organization to innovate, we have to disseminate this information. And as such a small department, it is one of the challenges that we face, both our time and capability in scanning. So, sourcing the content, consolidating, and then again, disseminating it so that we can pass it on, so that rating can happen, and so that we can create a consolidated single view of what is happening and what we believe the future could possibly be. But then also to inspire others, because again, the quality of the input impacts the quality of the ideas and the solutions that we will develop as we move forward as an organization. So really, as a topic, foresight and strategy, as an enablement to that environmental scanning, I really can't highlight the importance of it enough. We really do believe as an innovation department that we can't do what we do without that input coming in, and that strategic direction. I think it's been so exciting for us as a department to see how that collaborative view of the future can inform the opportunities that we look to. And so last year we selected 21 trends that we believe are most relevant to Smollen, and from that we created 5 opportunity spaces. We identified them, and we are actively pursuing innovation opportunities within those spaces moving forward. So yeah, such an exciting part of the innovation funnel.
Yeah, excellent. Tassilo, any final thoughts on your side, sir?
Yes, thanks, Lita. For my final statement, I would like to take up another question from Jan that's really great, and he is asking whether it's not too late to base innovation on trends. And that's really a great question here. And I would definitely agree if we just all follow the trends published by publishers, so more of the famous research agencies that we have, yes, then it might be too late. And we didn't dig deeper into the whole process of how to identify trends and so on and so forth. But one of the answers related to this question is that's of course too late to just work on trends, but how do you get to those trends? And this is where weak signals come into play, and the signals that Rachel has mentioned, I guess, also for Smolin there. And if you see rather weak things happening and small changes happening, or even big changes happening, but on a small scale, you should definitely work upon those. But the problem is that you can see a lot of those different signals, and you need to somehow aggregate those to make decisions at the end. That is where the trends come again into play. But it doesn't mean that those trends just need to be as generic as we see in trend reports that are published. And so that's the way how we approach this question here. And by saying that, I think for foresight part, it's important to see that the great potential can come from everywhere. So foresight should not only be a job for a rather small group of people, but if you can motivate and engage also a broader group of people to bring in signals they see, this could help the whole organization to think about new initiatives. And this is where you really leverage the full potential of your organization, and everyone feels also valuable because they can help to build the company of the future. And that's my last thought for today here, and looking forward to discuss one or another question after the session here. So thanks, Lita.
Rachel, Tassilo, 45 minutes has honestly flown by. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much to people that asked the questions. Just a quick reminder, same time next week, 13th July, 3 o'clock Central European Standard Time. We're tackling pictures of the future. How do we create different scenarios with relevance to the success of the organization's future? Please participate, please come in. After this, we're gonna have a mailer answering all your questions in detail, sending you the slides, giving you the resources. But again, special warm thank you to Rachel and Tassilo. We know you folks are busy, but thank you for making time for this masterclass. Honestly, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lita, for a great moderation. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Tassilo. Thanks, Lita.
Thanks all participants. So everyone, have a great afternoon. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.